Welcome to Inside the Indians, your source for insider information on the Tribe. Stay with us as we bring you the latest about the players, managers, and people behind the scenes at Victory Field. Now here's your host, the longtime broadcast voice of the Indians, Howard Kellman.
Hi everybody, I'm Howard Kellman and welcome to Inside the Indians. On today's show, we'll talk to the skipper of the Tribe, Bryan Esposito. We'll talk with the reigning IL Pitcher of the Week, Alex McRae, and his pitching coach, Bryan Hickerson. We'll be back with Espo on the home of the Indians, WHMB TV 40. Bryan Esposito, the manager of the Indianapolis Indians, our first guest on Inside the Indians. Espo, what a great story Jake Elmore is. He got called to the big leagues the other day, and he was simply sensational. I'd like to get your comments on him.
Yeah, just a little bit of an older guy that's been through the mill a little bit. He had some experience at the big league level earlier in his career. Last 2 years, not getting an opportunity at that level. He showed up. And, we got him at the very end of spring training via trade from the White Sox, and he just came in here and he was a blast of energy. Everything he did was all about winning baseball. He ran the bases hard. He was always backing up bases, doing a lot of the smaller things that a lot of players take for granted. He was just all over the field, and he was rewarded with a lot of good fortune. Swinging the bat really well, a jack of all trades on defense. He was just a pleasure to have, and it was fun to send him on his way to the big leagues.
He's leading the league in hitting. That's the first thing that comes to people's mind. They look at his stat sheet. He won several games with his defense for this club.
Yeah, tremendous defender at any spot. It was great to be able to see him in left field, come play shortstop, move over to second base. Got an opportunity to play third in the big leagues the other night. Just a jack of all trades with the leather.
And you know what else you can say about him? His offense, his defense, a really good guy with a great attitude.
Yeah, he understands what this game is all about. He talked a little bit about, having a family now and having a son, and that was just what, he wants his son to be able to watch him play some ball. So in order to do that, to prolong his career, he's going to have to go do a lot of different things that some other players don't necessarily do all the time.
He was not on the 40-man roster, and the Pirates selected his contract. Sometimes it's a little tougher to get to the big leagues when you're not on the 40-man for various reasons.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll have to make a decision or make a move, or, a lot of times when someone gets added, somebody has to come off. We were able to find a roster spot due to someone that has a prolonged injury, so it was a little bit of an easier move. But that is true. A lot of times where you have to make a decision on a player that's already on the contract, it's tough. But, for what we needed in the big leagues, we needed somebody that can help us win a ball game, and he was the guy to do it right now.
Nice to see on the road trip the way the club bounced back and won 3 straight.
Yeah, tough start to it. Battled some weather, battled some different things, and then finished up strong. So the team's in a good spot right now. We continue to battle. We continue to play. With the next man up mentality, guys going up, guys coming back down, so it's always fun to watch.
One of the guys who's been a great lift is Dario Agrazal, pitcher. Let's get your comments on him.
Yeah, another example of a next man up. Guy was in Double-A, has done nothing except come as advertised. He's attacking his zone. He's using his defense. He has no fear of anyone that steps in the batter's box. He knows what his strengths are, and he pitches to him, and he uses his defense. A ton of ground ball outs, ton of weak contact. Very efficient with his pitches. I believe he had 83 pitches through 8 innings the other night, which is just great work, and it's just a credit to him and how his mentality of attacking the strike zone has benefited him.
So he was the IL Pitcher of the Week. Before that, Mitch Keller was the IL Pitcher of the Week. And this past week, Alex McRae.
Yeah, a couple weeks in a row of some really good starting pitching performances, which is good because the majority of our bullpen has been on that shuttle up and down. A lot of turnover there. So, we asked our starting pitchers to put us, put the club on their back and go out there and pitch deep into a game, and these guys have done it. They have done it. McRae did a great job the other night of just, I believe he was perfect into the 6th. He did a really nice job as well, again, just competing and attacking the strike zone with that mentality.
You mentioned that about the starting pitchers. In this day and age, guys are not going 8 and 9 innings for the most part. So people say, well, a starter's importance isn't quite as what it used to be, but it's still the heart of your ball club, your starting pitching.
Yeah, nowadays they look to get those guys out maybe the 3rd time through, or they look to, on certain pitch counts where a guy starts to show some weakness, they'll try to go and relieve him, bring in the pen. But when you're talking about a 6-month span, and I think we're starting to see around the league that some of these relievers that had a lot of extended work last year aren't quite the same this year, or have sustained some injuries as a result of of being used so much out of the bullpen. You know, short term it seems great. To win the now is great, but if your objective is to have some type of sustained success within your division and on your team, you're going to have to, you're going to have these starters have to go deep into game at times.
They've got these stats in this day and age about how starting pitchers do not do as well the third time they face the lineup. And it's ironic because years ago, they would get tougher and tougher as the game went on.
Yeah, I believe that has a lot to do with the mentality as well. Certain guys might have seen your weapon so much, but if you have that attack mentality and maybe you pitch a little different the first couple times through where you don't expose your hands and you're using certain pitches, hold on to some pitches late in the game. If you're a 4-pitch guy, don't necessarily empty your basket in the first time through the lineup. I'm still a firm believer of the old school. When the tough gets going, the tough guys go out and get it. They get it going as well, like you said. And that third time through is when you see a lot about certain pitchers.
And speaking of that, getting tougher and tougher, that's exactly what Dario Agrizol did in that start he made with the 8 innings.
Yeah, back into the back end of the game, some of these guys just pitch to try to get through it. They pitch to survive, to not come out of the game. But when you're on the attack and you go after hitters, like you want them to initiate contact, you could carve right through that lineup just as easy as you did the first time through.
As a former catcher, now as a manager, you work with pitchers. Let me ask you in terms of a pitcher's going up against a really good club or a really weak club. In a hitter-friendly ballpark or a pitcher's park like this, do you see guys' mindsets affected by that?
No, absolutely. There are so many determining factors that go into a pitcher's decision on how they're going to attack certain guys. Whether you could say it's good or bad or not, the reality is those are the thoughts that creep in. You play in these smaller ballparks or, a higher elevation. If you go out to Coors Field, the stigma always is that, the ball travels better and sometimes the action of your pitches don't work as well because of the elevation. It's harder to grip the ball in certain places. I've seen some guys struggle that way, but I've also seen some guys that are able to overcome those different things and just, take care of business between the rubber and home plate, and they go to work.
Yeah, and the one thing that can happen is guys can nibble in a smaller ballpark before you know it, they've fallen behind in the count and they must come in.
Yeah, you start walking people, that's the killer. You give up solo home runs, that's fine. You give up some doubles, that's fine. But when you start issuing free passes, nibbling and trying to avoid bats and try to miss hitters' contacts, then you're asking for some trouble because that's when that, you walk two and that guy does catch up to your fastball or your breaking ball and hits it out of the yard. Now you're talking about a 3-run deficit as opposed to just, attacking that guy in hopes that they get themselves out.
Espo, as always, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
That's Bryan Esposito, the manager of the Indians, on the home of the Indians, WHMB TV 40. Pitcher Alex McRae, our next guest on Inside the Indians. Great timing, Alex. You were named IL Pitcher of the Week last week. Congratulations. And you had a great start in Scranton. Give us your thoughts on the performance.
Yeah, it was one of the better ones of the year for me, obviously. It was just seemed like everything was working. Steve and I were on the same page the whole game, and it just seemed like whatever I was throwing up there, I could put it where I wanted and keeping hitters off balance. So it was a fun one.
You took a no-hitter into the 7th inning. Are you conscious of that? I would think you would be.
Yeah, I was definitely conscious of it. Every time I'm walking back into the dugout, I'm thinking that I still got it and trying not to think about it, but it's obviously something you have on your head the whole time.
I would think none of the other guys says anything about it, do they?
They didn't, but they were telling me after the game that they weren't moving. Like every time I was coming in, they were doing the same thing and sitting in the same spot the whole game. So it was cool to see that they were part of it with me.
Do you have to focus on not letting the added pressure of a no-hitter get to you?
I don't think so. You don't try to change anything or try to do anything different. Whatever you were doing before was working, so there's no need to change anything.
That was a real early start, a 10:35 start. What's it like pitching that early? We have a couple of games at 11 in Indianapolis, too. What's it like pitching that early?
It can be tough, like you have to kind of prepare differently, get yourself ready sooner, obviously, and but it's really no different. Once you get on the mound, it's all the same, that you got the adrenaline with you, so it kind of wakes you up a little bit more.
Can it be tough on the hitters too?
For sure, yeah. I think absolutely. They got to go through it too. So I think it's it's tough for everybody.
What time do you get up if you're going to pitch 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning?
I think I was up at about 7, so not too bad, but a little bit earlier than I would usually wake up for a game if I'm not pitching. But you know, just to give myself a little extra time to wake up.
See, that is a change, not only for a pitcher, but the hitters, position players, because you used to play night games. Once in a while, you have a day game, and it's a 1:30 game, so you're not getting, excuse me, not getting your normal sleep pattern.
Yeah, it's. What's nice is we're able to, you know, leave the game a little bit earlier if we're pitching the next day, so we can get into bed a little bit sooner, and you're not still trying to come down from the night before and all that stuff. So you get your extra time.
What are your feelings on this Indianapolis Indians team?
Man, we're really close. I mean, it seems like that's always the biggest thing that people talk about, but everybody's close. You know, we vibe together well. We have some really good young players in the infield that are really fun to watch, and pitching staff seems like they're getting a little groove right now, so it's fun to see where we're going.
I think it's really neat. Here you're IL Pitcher of the Week. Dario Agrizol was IL Pitcher of the Week before, and Mitch Keller won the award too.
Yeah, it's cool to see. We're all kind of like competing against each other. We always want to outdo each other, and that's good competition. You know, it makes all of us better.
You mentioned having fun and playing, excuse me, and playing well. And Jake Elmore just went to the big leagues, and the first thing people will notice is he was hitting .380 and leading the league in hitting, but this guy was winning games defensively.
Yeah, he's a fun player to watch. He's a gamer, man. He always just seems to find a way to do things, get on base, and make the big plays when we need them.
How do you feel this season? You know, you came up in the middle of last year. There's an adjustment, AA to AAA. How do you feel this season?
I feel good. I feel like I've kind of gotten a feel for how the games go, what the hitters are trying to do. There's more veteran players here, obviously, and they're smarter, and you know that'll make us better too. You know, it takes a while to get used to, but it makes you better in the long run.
Well, I would think one thing you have to guard against as a pitcher, whenever you move up, whether it's A to AA, AAA to the big leagues, is to say, wait a minute, these guys are really good now, and you give the hitters too much credit and you get out of your game.
Yeah, that's the thing that you got to remember is they're still hitters, and that's not a bad thing against them. You know, it's a hard thing to do. You know, you fail 7 out of 10 times, and if you do that, you're doing pretty well. Like, people aren't doing that much anymore, so you can't give them too much credit and try to change your game to pitch around them or to get them out in different ways.
You still have to maintain that positive, aggressive attitude and say, hey, I'm good. I'm the man in charge. I got the ball.
Yeah, I like to watch Dario throw because he doesn't change anything. He throws a ton of strikes, and that's the biggest thing is attacking people, getting ahead and throwing a lot of strikes and not putting people on with walks or anything like that. He's really fun to watch. He's always the same guy out there no matter what.
This is something we talked to Bryan Esposito on this show about too, the skipper of the Indians, and that is, you know, you have a big ballpark, a smaller ballpark. You have a really good hitting team, a weak hitting team. It's hard not to adjust your mentality in those situations.
It is, especially with the new balls this year, and even the big ballparks are starting to play a little bit smaller. You're seeing a lot of home runs, and that's just something you got to deal with, you know. And it's like we were saying, you can't change anything. You got to just keep doing what you're doing.
Tell us the difference in this new baseball.
I think it's just a little bit harder. It seems to be wound tighter, the insides, and they just seem to carry a little bit farther. They're harder, and you know that adds distance to it. But at the same time, it adds more spin for us, more movement for us. So I think it's an even advantage.
Well, that's a good way of looking at it, because I know when guys get to the big leagues, they'll have to use that ball. I think that's why they put the new ball in play here.
Yeah, they wanted more people to get used to these balls now, so when you get up to the big leagues, it's not a big adjustment. So,
you know, you mentioned that in the new ball, and you still have to maintain that kind of aggressiveness, because if you don't, you're going to be in trouble, whether it's the new ball, the small ballpark, or the great hitting teams.
Yeah, it's just part of it. You know, home runs are going to happen. You can't change the way you pitch to try and pitch around those. I mean, they're going to happen now, no matter what. So it's part of the game.
The big key is, like you say, they're going to get some hits, is not to walk people beforehand.
That's right. Free passes always find a way to score, and that's where you get hurt. You know, you can live with the solo home run, but if you walk a couple of guys and then that home run happens, it's a completely different game.
Well, Alex, I thank you very much, and I congratulate you on the way you've pitched.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. I appreciate it.
That's Tri-pitcher Alex McRae on the home of the Indians, WHMB TV 40. Tri-pitching coach Bryan Hickerson. Our next guest on Inside the Indians, Bryan, I congratulate you again. Another International League Pitcher of the Week in Alex McRae.
Well, these guys are the ones doing the work, Howard. It's not, I'm not out there pitching, but it is fun to see them accomplish what they've been working on and go out and have outings like that, and they deserve it.
Let's talk about Alex. Tell us about him as a pitcher.
Well, he's a guy that, in 2017 I had him in Altoona for the year, and he became a guy that became a really strong competitor. Even when he had tough outings, he learned how to bounce back and come out fighting the next time. And I think nothing phases him out there now, and that's what we want to see in pitchers, is know how to make pitches even when things aren't going their way. And when things are going the way, they stay on that. They keep the foot on the gas, we call it, and don't let up. And he's shown that he can do that.
You make some great points there, because no matter how good you are, you're going to have challenges, and how you handle them in the end determines how good you'll be.
Absolutely. So how you respond to this game is probably, I would say, a large percentage of long-term success is you're learning how to deal with the ups and downs of this game, which of course there are always many.
The big innings. How does a pitcher prevent big innings from happening?
Well, for me, it's their ability to attack the strike zone with more than one pitch. And when you have a guy that can do that, he's confident, he's aggressive with it, even when his stuff isn't as good as it usually is, if you have that attack mindset and you can do it with more than one pitch, I think you can prevent the big innings.
Do you also have to have the mindset of when something goes wrong to shrug it off as opposed to letting it snowball on you to prevent a big inning?
Absolutely. It's the mental part of the game, and it's not the, oh no, here we go again, but it's, hey, I'm stopping this. That last guy got a hit, not the next guy.
It's a short memory. Is that something that you either have or don't have, or can you learn that?
I wouldn't call it a short memory. I would call it more a response, because you do remember, and you should remember, every at-bat against every hitter you face and learn how to build off of that history. It's dealing with the type of memory that it is that I think is important, and just remaining a competitor and not letting a negative outcome influence your ability to attack.
How about a relief pitcher? He blows a save. I know it's good to get him in there the next night if possible.
To me, it's no different. If you're on the mound, you're on the mound. Situational pitching, of course, comes into play. Later in games, you have to know what the opposition's trying to do, what the situation is, and you have to bring your A game. You can't settle in. You have to bring it like now, first pitch.
We mentioned Alex McRae, IL Pitcher of the Week. The week before, Dario Agrazal was the IL Pitcher of the Week. Tell us about him.
That game, he threw 80 pitches through 65 strikes. And so Dario's ability to put the ball where he wants to put it with 3 pitches is his plus. He has 3 pitches that move different directions, and he can put them on either side of the plate in any part of the count. And you see hitters not taking well-balanced swings and hitting ground balls, and that's how he pitches.
Something the way he attacks hitters.
Yeah, he doesn't give in to them. He doesn't give them as much credit as a lot of people do, and he's confident in what he can do with the baseball.
And Mitch Keller was Pitcher of the Week a few weeks ago also. Tell us about Mitch.
Mitch is still coming into who he is out there as far as consistency goes with mentality, and we're looking for he has the makeup for it. He definitely has the tools for it. It's a matter of him doing that time and time again, every time out, every pitch, never taking a pitch off, never taking an at-bat off, never taking an inning off. They all build off of each other.
He's thrown a fastball, curve, and change. Now he's added a cut fastball. Tell us about that pitch.
Yeah, it's something that he, started tooling around with at the end of last year and developed more this spring, and now is, learning how to use it in games. And I think it's going to be a pitch that'll be a big difference maker for him, because it's short, it's fast, and it gives the hitter just another look that's hard to defend against.
When he's on his game, he can really have a dominant stretch.
Absolutely. He has the tools. Again, it's the confidence, the mentality of, I don't care who they are, I know them, but I can beat them no matter what.
One of the things we have to remind ourselves about Mitch Keller and a lot of these players, they're very young.
Sure, absolutely, and you know, it's the competitor in them that we want to see come up and be consistent and confidently consistent, not just confident because of the results, but confident because they know who they are and they know what they can bring out there. Even if a pitch or their fastball or curve isn't feeling as good as it has, are you confident in your ability to compete?
Is there a difference for you working with a pitcher who has signed out of high school or out of college?
Of course, a lot of it's based on where they came from, how they were brought up, how they're wired personality-wise, their athletic mentality, I would call it. All of that comes into play, and what's fun about this game is you get guys from all different backgrounds and different places, and so there's a wide spectrum of what you're working with. But at the end of the day, it's really who is it that's on the mound, and they need to own that. You know, I can't be out there owning that for them. It's who they are.
As always, Bryan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's Bryan Hickerson on the home of the Indians, WHMP TV 40. Thanks to our guests, Bryan Esposito, Alex McRae, and Bryan Hickerson. See you next week on Inside the Indians.